Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Joan and the family for allowing me to say a few words about George. George was boxing when I met him, but I never knew George, the boxer. I only knew George as the man. People always ask me, how did you meet George? We grew up in the same neighborhood, so most, oh, you grew up with, no, George, 5 years younger than me. He was a little boy when I was growing up. But when I met George, I came to understand that George was pure. A lot of people, and even he says when he was young, he was a bad boy. But I realized George was never a bad boy. When he was young, he was a good boy who did bad things. He says he was converted. He was never converted. George was always good. He just learned who he really was. He learned his foundation. How did I meet George? George started giving me money when I was dean of law school. Didn't know him, never met him, get checks in the mail. When I became president, George gave me a large contribution to the university. I called Nancy, the person that I'd been communicating with all these years, and I said, Nancy, I have to meet George. I have to talk to George. I have to personally thank him for all the contributions he's made to Texas Southern University. And she said, the only way George will meet you if you come to church. If you come to church, he will talk to you afterwards. At that time, Nancy didn't know that I made a contract with myself. At 19 years old, I walked out of the church. So for the rest of my life, I had to explain to people, I didn't leave God. I left the church because I couldn't deal with all the hypocrisy in the church. But I went to George sermon, went to church, heard him preach. We talked afterwards. I really liked what he said, and so I went back the next Sunday. Another very, very moving sermon for me. So that Wednesday, my secretary buzzed me. She said, George Foreman is here to see you. I said, George Foreman? She said, yes. So George came in, and I said, George, you know, I'm not always in my office. I have meetings. I'm out of town. I said, in order to make sure that I'm here, it might be a good idea if you make an appointment. He said, you didn't make an appointment when you came to church. So that's how our friendship started. I want to do two things. First, I want to read something, scripture from the Bible. I know it's not church, but this is what brought George and I together. Now, this encounter that Jesus had with the Pharisees is in Matthew, Luke, and John. All right? I always tell people, my name is James Matthew Douglas, so I like to count in Matthew. And so that's what I'm going to read from the 22nd chapter of Matthew, 36 through the 40th verse. And one of the Pharisees said to Jesus, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the
I
first
welcome you guys
of the
back on
great
here. If you're new,
commitments.
consider subscribing,
And
liking,
the
and also
second is,
share this video. So the funeral
like unto
memorial
him,
service for the
thou shalt
legendary
love thy
boxing
neighbor as
guru, the
thyself.
legendary George
On
Foreman,
these two
one of the
commandments
huge names within
hang
the boxing
all the
industry,
law
is actually
and
right
the
now
prophets.
underway, like you've
That's how
just
George
seen
lived his
at the
life.
start of the video.
And I
It's actually
realized
being held
that's what I was
at
looking
the
for.
Wortham Theater Center. That is
You know,
501
I know
Texas
a lot of
Avenue
people
in
in the church say,
Houston,
why did
Texas
the president of the university
77002.
start just
Just
coming to our
right
church?
about now, and
That's why I
so
come
many
to a church,
families,
because I
family
finally found
members, so many
somebody who
friends,
believed
so
like
many
me.
fans actually had
Religion
to book their own
in
slots,
Christianity
to
should
attend
be
the funeral
complex.
of the legend that
Just
is
two simple
Big
things.
George Foreman.
Love
The family
God
came out
and love
and
thy fellow man.
revealed
I know
in
Michael
a
Harris always
statement
talks
and
about
part of the
George being the
obituary that
love
was
man
released. They
because
said
he preached
that the
love
Foreman
all the
family, in
time.
partnership with the
That's what
city
this
of
life is all
Houston,
about.
invites the public,
It's
to
all about
attend
love.
a memorial
And
service
George was
honoring
here
the life
because
and
George
legacy of
lived
George
and
Edward
believed
Foreman.
what he
And
preached.
we all know George Foreman was more than
So
a
that's how
champion in the
George
ring. He
and I
was a
became
champion of the human
friends.
spirit. And of course, he's a
George was
man who was
always
born in Marshall, Texas, and raised in Houston's Fifth Ward. Of course, Foreman rose to the global fame as an Olympic global medalist and a two-time world heavyweight boxing champion. Of course, beyond his achievements, we can look at him in terms of sports, and of course he became a successful entrepreneur, a minister, a philanthropist, and of course a beloved figure whose influence extended far beyond the boxing world. Right about now, the memorial service actually is here to celebrate George Foreman's extraordinary journey, from an overcoming a humble beginnings to standing on top of the world, on that huge stage as a symbol of strength, perseverance, and of course, second chances. His commitment to family, faith, and community will always remain central throughout his life. And of course, he's a man who actually inspired countless individuals across generations. And of course, the service is here to reflect on Foreman's contribution as an athlete, a businessman, and a man of deep Christian faith, and a mentor to so many young people across Houston and beyond the whole world. It will also actually it's also going to honor his legacy, through initiatives like the George Foreman Youth and Community Center, where he dedicated himself, to providing opportunities, hope, for so many people